Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it happens to be for you. I hope you're doing well, barring Tottenham, of course. I have got the wonderful Ashmatic with me to talk about the what's going on at Tottenham and the up-and-coming game against Crystal Palace. So how are you doing?
Hey, first of all, there's nothing wonderful about me right now, I'm telling you. But yeah, thanks for having me on, Mia.
No
And
worries.
unfortunately, these are worrying times that we have to speak on. So yeah,
I
man.
know. It's
I hope you're
not
better
good.
than I am.
I don't think I am, like Tottenham I watch everything now but Tottenham stuff. Like I try and avoid it. I try and watch like
Mm.
true crime, all like
Oh,
latest anything that goes on. Like
yeah.
I'm just like watch any of that, yeah.
Oh,
Like
my
anything that
true
comes up
heart.
on anything that goes on Tottenham comes up on my thing. I'm like, nah,
You
I
say
don't
you'd
want to.
rather watch the news right now, just
I'd
not
actually
that
rather
bad.
watch the news, man. The news is less depressing than Tottenham.
It's
That is
crazy.
saying something, man. Right.
Mm.
So the first thing we are going to talk about, because of those games that happened yesterday, it is really getting us close to that relegation status. So people are for getting relegated. So are you for getting relegated or against getting relegated? Because some people say that it
Um,
might obviously kick the owners into gear. That's what the belief on
yeah.
some is. But what's your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't want to get relegated. I'm one of those, hopium fans that if we manage to stay up, then we could attract a higher caliber of player. But if we're in a lower division, I don't think we can attract that caliber of player. And then also, we probably have to lose quite a lot of those players. And I do hear the argument because our team does need cutting out, but at what extent? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And I'm not certain. This is my opinion that we bounce back into that Premier League straight away. And I know
agreed.
they've opened up the spaces where it's now 6 teams instead of 4, which would suit us. But at the same time, what players are we losing? What players are we keeping? And are they enough to keep us up? I mean, to get us promoted in those playoffs, because those playoffs are tricky. Players aren't easy. In the championship, as much as the teams are probably lower than what we used to, it's not an easy league. It's not an easy league.
No,
And I
and
think also, last thing, those teams, every time they'll come to Tottenham at an amazing stadium, it will feel like a cup final every time. They'll be
yeah,
up for it. They'll be up
100%.
for
And
it.
also, if we did get promoted straight away, we'd then have championship players. So then we'd have to start again with trying to build up the squad again. And then we could be teetering again on the relegation situation. So it's really like it's going to take a longer time, I think, if we go down to build ourselves back up. Where if we stay up, I think we can, if the owners want to, build it
Mm.
back up again, if you get what I mean. And it can be
Yeah.
done. So next season, we're not in the situation where I think if we go down, I honestly think having championship level players or relying on youngsters if we did come up to the Prem, would have to then get loads more players in, and obviously financially we'd be at a loss because we would actually have less money from certain avenues like sponsors and stuff, so we'd have less money too. So I think that it would take a longer amount of time. I know everyone's going to say we've got other revenues, but we've got a big debt as well. We've got a lot of money that we have to pay out.
I think also it's like, what can you attract after coming up from the championship? What kind of project
True.
can you sell to those players that you need to take you up to the next level? And people could argue, oh, look what Forest did. They bought loads of players in, but then now look how where Forest are now. And then also, if you look at teams like Leeds, they've got a young, hungry team, but they're in like 15th. Do you know what I mean? Are we
Yeah, yeah.
saying that our level is going to be around that? Do you know what I mean? I think if we was to stay in the league, there's a possibility we could push to 10th, ninth, which isn't saying a lot, but at least we're mid-table. But right now, it's hard to speak about, but we're at the bottom. We're 1 point off relegation as it stands at this particular conversation before we talk about Palace. Who knows, innit? The results could be different by the end of tonight, and we could have. If we win, we obviously we go above Leeds, and we'll end up in 15th place. But yeah, as it stands now, it's not looking good.
No, it's really not good, looking good. And I think a lot of people didn't think we would be in this scenario because I think last season, when when we did get Frank, a lot of people said we are better than where we finished last season, and we finished 13 points from relegation. This season is so much closer to relegation. So I don't think anybody really truly expected us to be in the situation that we were. But here we are. And we'll have to wait and obviously see and hope that we can get the 3 points against Palace. So we will obviously talk about that as well. But yeah, that's obviously the situation we're in. The next thing is that a lot of people are speaking about, Ash, if we don't get this win against Crystal Palace, that that Tudor's job is in danger. Do you believe that to be true? Would you want him sacked after this game if he does not win it?
Do I believe it to be true? It's a possibility because he was brought in to get results. It didn't really matter about performance. We needed to get up the table as soon as possible. Albeit it was against Arsenal, that wasn't really a tall ask. But I think against Fulham, a lot of people, maybe including the boards, they're looking at that game where we should be at least getting a point. I know over the last few seasons we haven't had positive results at the Craven Cottage, but again, that doesn't matter. We're in a dogfight at the moment, and we need results now. And so if we go to Palace and lose, then they will look at him and think, wow, we need to get someone else in that can get us points. And maybe these players aren't buying into what he's selling. And that's the worry between the club. And I think the club are starting to panic slightly. I did read somewhere, though, that they were looking at his second in command as assistant coach to maybe come in. Don't know how true that is, but again, would I want him gone? Yeah, I would. I know it sounds crazy and it's a bit early, it's a bit controversial of a take, but I always said as well, I'm not going to judge him against Arsenal, but I definitely will judge him against Fulham. And of course, Palace will be 9 games left. We've got 9 games to get 3 wins. And if we don't get that win and we get a draw or we lose, it's not enough, in my opinion. So it's the style of play. Obviously, the style of play, I think he's tried to do 2 different versions where I think in that first half against Fulham, I saw like a zonal kind of press that he was trying to get those players to do. And then another one in the second half when that wasn't working and they were, creating chances against us, he tried to go man to man. And I felt like teams in this league, they figure out quickly if you go man to man how to bypass that. You beat one person, all of a sudden they've got the numerical advantage. They're creating overloads. They've got chances on goal. They can score goals. You end up losing the game. And I think a lot of these players, they're very fragile at the moment. So if we go a goal down, we find it very hard to get a result, as in a win. We might get a draw, or better yet, we might lose. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's the situation we're at the moment with Tudor, and like in possession, because I spoke about defensive shape, but out of in possession, we're not doing any patterns of play, in my opinion. Like we're not really seeing anything, and it feels like a continuation of what we've seen under Frank. And I think their thought process was like, forget tactics. This guy has shown the capabilities to get other teams out of relegation battles and get them into safe spot. And so when he came in, I think that was probably the remit that he's going to galvanize the squad. He's going to give them a no-nonsense approach, whereas Frank was a bit more of the nice guy, come on, guys, respect first, no dickheads, that type of like kind of teacher kind of vibes. Whereas I think Tudor's more of a disciplinarian, and I think some of those players don't respond well to that. And when we had Conte at the time, Conte was really like, my way, and he was quite harsh, told it as it is, didn't really mix his words. I think Tudor's trying to come with that approach, and it's not working with some of the players. And when you don't get your players buying into it, and you don't have like a manager that can have shown the softer side, he can't unify the group that he's got underneath him. And that's what we need at this time in this current fight. If we can't play as a team and we can't have relationships on the pitch, I can't see how we get past other teams. West Ham look more united than us, no pun intended, and so did Forest. Forest got a point against Man City, and you're looking at Elliot Anderson, great goal that he scored against City, and then Gibbs White with a cheeky finish. I'm looking at some of our players, um, and I'm not sure if they've got that kind of guile to get it done. The formation he picked as well was questionable. Um, at the least, he put Xavi Simmons as a left winger, and he put Conor Gallagher as a right winger. You could argue left midfield, right midfield. Okay, cool. But it's similar again to what Frank did was 4-2-2 when he had no wingers. And I thought at least he would give us width by having the fullbacks bomb on. But Archie Gray, he's a right-footed left back. He's playing him a right-footed at a left back position. He's going to want to come inside all the time. And then you've got Porro. He just spams the ball as soon as he gets it down the channels. That's all we've got. And so for me, I thought, he'll be able to profile the team and put players in the right position to give us a fighting chance. And I haven't seen that so far. Hopefully I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, I do agree with you. Everything you said, I can't say I disagree. I think that what he did by playing that formation, what he did probably wrong was playing people out of position. Like you said, I actually felt a bit sorry for Archie because he is right-footed. So he done him up a bit like a kipper because there wasn't really much the boy could do but go inside. So it just really made things a lot more difficult for him. So then we were going down the other side the whole time. And then they realised that. So they knew there was no threat on that side, which is never good because then they figure it out. They were going for our middle just like for fun. They were just literally dog walking us in the middle of that park. So it definitely wasn't the one to probably pick, and putting players out of position was definitely not great either. So I think he did really mess up with that. And me personally, it's really difficult because, like you, I was a bit like the Arsenal game is a really tricky game for him to come into. We probably should have made the decision sooner to not have Frank and get somebody else in, but we didn't. And, here we are. But if he does lose this game, like you, I think the players just aren't buying into him. You've got to have a mix of strict but fair, I think. When it comes to players, you've got to know what players to put your arm around and which players need a bit more of that strictness. And I think that it's difficult when you first come into a team to be able to judge that quickly. You've got to think on your feet and judge on as you go along, and it just don't seem to be working because even Van der Ven doesn't seem interested. I find like Van der Ven just seems to be a bit meh about it as well, if I'm honest. So
Yeah,
I do think
I think it has been turned. That's why he's acting like that.
Yeah,
And
no, I agree.
I think him and Xavi, they're like best buddies. They're like they talk a lot. Obviously, they're both Dutch internationals. He's the one that encouraged Xavi to come over, and so when his head's turned and his head was done, remember Romero. He looks up to Romero, Mickey Van der Ven. Romero is speaking out against the board. He clearly wants out, and I think that's affected Mickey. Mickey's then passed it on to Xavi. We saw what Spence did and Mickey Van der did to Thomas Frank when he just blanked him and walked past him, and I thought that was the start of the revolt. Do you know what I mean? And I think this guy's come in and he's not inspired them, number one, but then two, tactically, it's nothing different, if that makes sense. It was like we've gone from Frank to Tudor, but there's not much of a difference in style or in terms of approach. And so maybe the players are like heard it and seen it all before, and they're just tired of losing, and they may not have any belief in his current practice. I understand maybe why he went to a 4-4-2. Maybe he was thinking it's easier to coach. Everyone understands their role. When you're going man to man and you play a 4-4-2, it's easier to stick to your man because you're in shape already. And maybe that's the fastest way he could get his message across to these players. Unfortunately, that means a lot of players are being put out of position. And it'll be interesting to see, we'll probably talk about it, if he does go back to his trusted formation, because it was funny to me that he went away from the back three. If you've been playing the back three your whole career, and you've only played the back four maybe once or twice in your career, why would you then, go against your morals? What type of message does that show? Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
no, that is also true. That is true. So let's move on from that and say, do you think that any manager can do better? Like, and if so, who? Because there's obviously been names banded about, and a lot of people were saying Redknapp, because they feel like he's got the right kind of personality to be like, you're great lads, just go out there and play lads, you know what I mean? Like, he's got that very
Mm,
happy-go-lucky sort of personality. Even his age, obviously that's the thing, because he is, like, you know, getting on a bit, and though he's in quite good like health, the point is would he be really the person to bring in at his age? Obviously he's got things going on probably in his life, I think, as well, with his wife and stuff. I don't know if that's really in that way the right choice, but as a person, I guess yes, because I love Redknapp. He's my favourite manager, but
mm.
that we've had, so I love him, but I don't know, is that the right person? And do you think any manager can do better, Ash?
Well, I think the thing about Redknapp is the fans will definitely buy into him, and I think right now as fans, I don't know if we're fully together. I went to the
Yeah,
Fulham game, and there was a bit of a ruckus above me. People were fighting, disagreeing. I saw people singing Enoch out, other fans saying, "What are you talking about? Shut up." Um, some people calling out Vicario, being booing him. Other fans saying, "Get behind the players. This isn't the time for it." So I think if Redknapp came in, he might give some fans some hope, some energy, and he might unite the fans back again, similar to like that kind of Poch appointment. Um, nostalgia. And like you said, he might get into their heads and say, "Look, man, I played with top players like Luka Modric, Van der Vaart, Gareth Bale. I've had them all. Different, but I can see something in you that blah blah blah." He might give that spill that gives him a bit of
yeah,
hope and belief, and then he just plays players in their right position. And I think we just need 3 wins. It's just as simple as that. We don't need
yeah,
a complete like the amount of games we've got left. We just need a bit of rub of a green. Number one, because I think decisions haven't been going our way. But number two,
agreed.
we just need some of those players to hang on to something. And um, I was hoping TUDOR, when he had that meal, that sit down, that everyone sat down, they said their home truths, they got together, and that was a way of bonding and unifying together. But clearly, that didn't work. And TUDOR coming out saying those things that he said, there's a lot of problems, and they're bigger than you think. I'm paraphrasing here, but that's what he
Yeah,
more or less came out and said. But with Harry, I guess there's not many other candidates you can really talk about that are available at the moment that are willing to come to Spurs as well. You got to remember, there might be people out of work, but do they want to tarnish their name and their brand? And maybe
Mason back.
I just don't think he's got the need or the character
No, I
to
don't know
kind of
either.
go. When I hear him speak, he's so softly spoken. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah,
really like he's like mousy. And
yeah.
yeah, he was a number one at one point. He did the intern thing, but yeah, that was a dire situation, and I don't think he really did much different. He
No.
won a few games, but I mean, I'm not convinced with Mason personally. I wouldn't want him back.
Would you have him back if it was like Mason number two to Redknapp?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. But then I think
Because I
what's the
think,
point? I think
yeah,
what's the point? We might as well just get someone else. Just get someone else number two. But I wouldn't be mad at it if Mason was number two.
yeah.
Um, I'm
I was
not
just
looking at Mason.
spitballing in it.
Yeah, because Mason, I guess with Mason, at least he's been under Poch, he's been under Conte, he's been under Ange as well. So he's had like different coaches. He's obviously managed himself, didn't quite work out. So maybe he can bring the modern style over to Harry, just to let him know, yeah, these are the latest trends and whatnot. This is what we're doing on the grass
And
at the moment.
also, I was thinking about on the training pitch, because I can't see Harry being on the training pitch. Bless him. Like, he's not going to be
Yeah, no,
standing
he
there, and,
wouldn't be there. Yeah,
so
he
you
was
need
always, remember, it was Joe
somebody.
Jordan. It was Joe Jordan that was the coach,
Yeah,
wasn't it? Harry Redknapp was a bit like Ange. He was the overseer, so he
yeah.
basically like watched from far.
So,
And I think a lot of managers, that's what they do. Even like Chelsea manager Rosenior, he doesn't coach. He will manage. His coaches do the coaching, and then he will give
and
the brief
instructions.
instructions, what he wants them to do, and then they report back to him, and he will have a look as well from far, see like what players are doing, etc. So I guess like Harry would be the same. Whatever coach he's got underneath him, he'll let them do the coaching on the grass, and he's just there.
And he'll be
giving the halftime speeches, giving the oranges,
having his cup of tea.
Getting the digesters in the system,
Watching a bit of whatever people of his age watch that during the day. I don't really know
I'm a
what
celebrity.
daytime.
Daytime. I feel like I'm watching reruns, but I'm a celebrity. Yeah, probably. What do you call it? Is it not Time Out? I can't remember the name of the show's daytime.
Joe used to be on when I was younger. I remember if you didn't go to school, was Supermarket Sweep. That was a great show.
What about that show, Deal or No Deal?
Deal or No Deal, yeah.
Deal or No Deal.
Or,
that show.
Or what's the other one? The one with when she'd be the one Anne, what's her name? And she used to say
Weakest Link.
Weakest Link, yeah. Got the weakest link. Got the weakest link.
Yeah. Or was it the Four in the Bed or something? Like they go to each other's house.
Yeah. Or the one
Come Down With Me.
Come Down With Me. Yeah, Come Down With Me. What's the one where they used to go around on the coach? Do you know the one where they used to go around and they all used to go on holiday or whatever it was. And they used to go on that massive coach, and you get them see them talking.
I was in school. I don't know. I wasn't.
Yeah, of course. You was a good boy, innit? Good boy.
Yeah, I finished
did you bring? Yes, miss. No, miss. Here's your apple, miss. Do you want an apple?
Listen, guys, stay in school. Yeah, don't.
Yeah, it's true.
Sway by no baddies,
Stay in school. Get your education. Yeah, that's what we're saying.
Be like, I'm not gonna say her name.
I never used to skip school. I'm just saying, if you had a day off school in it, that's the sort of program you'd watch.
You were a good girl too, were you? Oh,
of course I was a good girl. Do I look like I'm a bad girl? I was always a good girl. I never got into any trouble. I never got one. I never got one detention. Not one detention.
Not one.
No, not one detention.
You're getting people in detention. That's why.
No, because I used to be smart enough not to get detention, innit? So I used to be clever enough not to get them. If I didn't do if I didn't do my homework, I didn't get detention for it because I was so quiet and I didn't do a lot. I didn't, cause any trouble. So teachers were a bit more forgiving, innit?
Okay.
That's what you got to be in it sometimes. Don't be like the loudmouth, because the loudmouth's always the ones the teachers are looking out for, innit?
No homework detention. I don't know what school you went to. Your school was soft.
No, my school wasn't soft. Like I say, they'd give other people detentions, but they didn't give me. Like I say, I think because I was a bit more quiet. Like I used to I wasn't a prefect, but I used to stay in with the prefects, and teachers didn't say nothing to me because they knew they were all my friends. I wouldn't have no one to hang out with, and I was quiet, innit? I didn't cause no trouble. So they were like, okay, cool.
I mean, what happened? What went wrong? Like,
what do you mean what went wrong?
You used to be a good, quiet girl. Like, what's that?
I grew up in it. I grew up and I realised that don't get you nowhere, man. You can't be like that in life. In real world life anyways. But yeah. Anyway, moving on. Let's talk about these players. They just don't seem to care. Like they've got a 50%, some of them, clause in their contracts, thanks to Mr. Levy, which I was a bit confused by because he's put a clause in case we get relegated, yet he was the one saying we're going to be challenging for Premier Leagues and Champions Leagues and whatnot. So why did he have that in his mind? But we move. But the fact is he did put these clauses in, but these players aren't playing like they're 50% down on their wages if they get relegated. Like they just don't seem to give a damn, innit? Like,
a lot of them are moving. That's why they're talking to their agents and they're lining up deals. That's why they're not. They've got their contingency plan. They've got their get out plan. So like it might be in their interest that the club go down because then this makes it easier for their prices drop dramatically. If we stay in the league, clubs may have to pay 80 million for a certain player. I don't know, like Mickey Van der Ven. Romero might have to pay for 60 million or 50 million. And it depends on what you believe. But if they were to go into the championship, all of a sudden, that price is reduced. So I'm not saying they would purposely do it, but you're saying players seem not to care. And I heard a lot that Xavi, he wasn't happy at RB Leipzig. He would get into players, and these times they were in Champions League, and he was kicking off, and he was like, he had standards. If people weren't pulling their weight, so I could only imagine now him in this league, in this situation. He's never been in a relegation battle, and he must be thinking, I've come from La Masia, I've been trained with Barcelona, I've played with Neymar, to go to PSG, then to go to PSV, where I played with Savinho or Savio, or whatever you want to call him, and others. Then I went to obviously Leipzig, where I played with Sesko and other players, Openda, whatever. And now I'm here at Spurs, and I'm in this mess. How did I get here? I thought I was playing Champions. I came here for Champions League football. Now there's going to be no Champions League football. Where is my motivation?
Joe, it reminds me of that meme. This is me. I bet you're wondering how I got here. That's what Xavi is, isn't it? Is that meme thing of like, he's like, this is me now. I bet you're wondering how the hell I got in this situation.
He's thinking Spurs are the biggest catfish ever. Yeah, that's
man.
what he's thinking.
Yeah,
he's like, you know what?
100%.
You know when a big girl takes a camera angle from there, like,
yeah. I know that trick. I know that trick. Yeah. Not that I need to do that trick, just saying, but I know that trick.
Yeah. I think that's what happened to Xavi. I think that's what happened to Xavi. Kudos, basically, he took a sideways step from West Ham. He thought he was going up, but he took a sideways step. Paulinho, obviously, coming from Bayern Munich, he knew what he was getting himself into. But yeah, there's loads of other players. Like I always said that, like, the problem is if Spurs start to if we don't make Europe, there's a lot of players that are going to leave, because a lot of these players are here on the premise of either winning trophies or getting that Champions League place. And I remember watching an interview with Mickey van der Ven, and he said, and got me going, because he was like, trust me, when I get hold of this club, we're going to be fighting for titles. We're going to be winning trophies. He gave him that type of talk. So that's the reason why he was motivated to come to Spurs, even though Liverpool were looking for him. You know, eventually, obviously, they never made the move, and we did. But he was convinced that this was the right project that he believed in. Now we can't sell that. A lot of these players are thinking, why am I here? And I always said as well, branding is important, because we did have that Spursy tag. Even when he joined, he had the Spursy tag, but he was like, nah, you know what? We're going to be the ones that are going to do it. We're going to be the ones that are going to change it. Now we're in a situation where a lot of these players are looking at it, and we're no Europe. Like, what are we pushing for? What are we fighting for? The motivation's not there. I'm out. See you later. You know what I mean? And that includes the Kulizeskis as well. I know people like him a lot, but I'd suspect if he was to get better, not this season, I'm just talking about in general.
Yeah.
He himself would be looking for a move. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I do agree. I do think their motivation's down because of that. And also, I feel like, I know we finished 17th, but it was quite Spursy to get one manager who actually won us something and then sack him, the one who actually got the players motivated to win something, because that, I know everyone says it was an easy to do because of who we had and blah, blah. But if you look at them now in the Champions League, some of those teams, I don't know, like, they're not as bad as what maybe people were saying about how easy it was for us to get past them. But my point being is that players are humans. And if they've been promised this thing by somebody who's motivated them, and then they leave, and then they're like, what the hell is this club doing? And now we're in even a worse position. Those players, of course, are going to be thinking, what the hell's going on? You know, like, I don't.
It's a completely different personality fit. Like, from Ange to Frank, they're worlds apart.
They're night and day, really. Let's be honest.
And I think that's the why a lot of those players were still hung up on Ange. They said, I remember at the time, they said a lot of players were shocked that he was sacked. They couldn't believe it. Yeah. So imagine you're sacking him and bringing this guy that's a bit more grounded, or not grounded, pragmatic, sensible, logical. Like, do you know what I mean? And like, whereas Andrew's like, you know, shoot for the moon. You know, what do you say? We're gonna smoke this team. You know, we're going for titles. We're going for this. Even though it might sound delusional, you need to hear that as a player. Do you understand? You need to
Yeah,
know
of
that
course.
you're playing for a big club. You're going for big titles. You know, that's the reason why you're there. You go into a sport because you want to win, not because you want
That's
to stay
right.
in the division. Like if you think about Everton, their ammo is different. Leeds, their motivations are different. They're built to kind of fight. You know, the possibilities that they will be in these type of relegation battles. A lot of these players would have come to us not having that in their conversations when they're talking to their agents. Because believe it or not just our agents, but all agents talk. And so other agents will be talking not just to our senior players, but to some of our younger players, our academy players. And you've seen it already. Some of the players are rejecting scholarships. Some young players are rejecting new deals. And so what could happen is a knock-on effect where our academy becomes weakened, and loads of bigger teams start coming from our academy. Some of the players that you love start to get attracted. Um, so yeah, it's not just a first 11 or a squad situation. I think it's a club situation where the branding, that's what's being affected right now. And
Yeah.
we had the Spursy before, but yeah, it's way worse. It's gone past Spursy.
Yeah, we've gone no like Spursy, you think is the lowest of the low, but it ain't. Like where we are now is below that, which is like the lowest point I think you could probably get to.
And I also think, just to finish off, if we don't get relegated, the club will be like, phew. But the thing is that, and I understand why people are saying why they think we should get relegated, because the club will think, okay, we didn't get relegated, but then it might not have been enough to kind of kick them into gear. They might carry
Yeah,
on and therefore drag the club further and further down, because now the expectation from a lot of fans is saying, oh, kill to get seventh, eighth. You know what I mean? Oh,
yeah,
mid
yeah,
table. That's the type of team we are. We're a mid table team. We're no longer a top six team. And then that is the culture within the club that manifests from into the top, into the fan base, and then before you know it, we're like a West Ham, and then we will get relegated eventually.
and we definitely don't want to be compared to those bubble blowing beeps. Not a fan of the
We
old
say
bubble
Bonnie
blowers.
Blues. Oh god, I got you a
Well,
bit out.
less we say about that about her, the better, really. So we have got Palace coming up. Can we get points, Ash? Because we only need 3 wins, as you say. I think 3 wins is enough. But when you look at our games, it's a bit like, can we get them though? Because this game is at home. It's a big game and
Mhm.
it's a lot of pressure. It's a weekday game and there's a lot of tickets available. So
Mm,
I think that shows you, because it is harder on a weekday for everybody working, etc., to actually
mm,
get to these games. So the support might not be as big as what it normally is at home. And this is
yeah.
a high pressure game. Have we got it in us to actually get a point or some, or a game out of this where we can go, right, okay, that's something. At least, it was like a last minute winner that they got. And it looks like we are at least trying to get to a stage where we're winning games or drawing games.
Well, on the face of it, if you look at the history, we've got a good record against Palace at home. But if we're looking at current times, current form, it's not looking good. We haven't won a game in our last 5 games. That's really worrying. We've drawn one and we've lost four. And it was our last four we've lost as well. 4 back-to-back losses. It's
Yep.
not good reading. Palace do have a suspension that they were trying to turn around, but it hasn't happened in time in Lacroix. And so they're going to
Yeah.
have a back three. I think of, is it Canvor, the youngster, 19-year-old? And I remember he was having issues, he was having problems. Was he playing us? I can't remember what team it was, but he was getting like turned inside out and they had to take him off quickly. So hopefully we can look at that as a weakness when we look at their back three, and we can target that. But apart from that, their team, you look at Pino, Saw, they're the danger men for me. Munoz, again, he's like one of the best fullbacks in the league. He's up and down. I remember last season when they had Eze, Munoz was getting up and down, whipping crosses into the box. He even scored against us last season, but that was at home, in the home game fixture. So yeah, they've got players that can definitely hurt us, but we just need to. The goal cliche is focus on us, and hopefully you've got players like Richarlison. As much as we don't. It's hard to say that we're relying on players like Richarlison because he's not our most technical player. But that's not what we need right now. We need someone that's going to fight, scrap, win aerial battles, win fouls high up the pitch, get their heads on something, be able to bully centre backs, and he might be the kind of profile we need leading that line compared to what Solanke is. Solanke comes across as not really a poacher like that inside the box, like
Yeah.
a goal threat. I think Richardson's more of a goal threat, even though Solanke's more of a footballer, more refined. But in that Fulham game, he couldn't really get into the game, and we need someone that we can be tenacious and be aggressive, and just have that kind of intensity, which we were missing in that Fulham game. So the right wing for me is the issue at the moment. Who's it going to be? I don't know. Who comes in? We haven't got any natural fits, and I think that goes back into probably going to go into your next question. It's probably going to be into your next question, so I won't even talk about the board or whatever yet. But yeah, other than that, I think I would prefer Danso to start if we are to go to a back four. I'll be interested to see if he does change tactics and go to his preferred back three. But I would start Danso if we are doing a back four over Dragoshin. I think he's slightly better on the ball. Not much better, but slightly better. However, he did play, I think, under Tudor. Or Tudor had some type of he had some intel on him because obviously Dragoshin was at Juventus before.
Yep.
And Tudor was obviously a manager at Juventus, so he would have seen him a lot more, knows him. And maybe they could relate a bit more Eastern Bloc and that. That's my thinking. So maybe Dragoshin will start again, but I just don't like him on the ball. And in football, you have something called triggers. And if Vicario was to start, even though the rumors are that they're going to drop him to Kingsky, we'll see if that's true. If Vicario is not the trigger, then Dragoshin will be the trigger, definitely. They will use him as a trigger. And I know a lot of people are talking about Suso. Yeah. He's obviously left-footed. He's a left back. But defensively, because on the ball he looks okay, he gets forward. But defensively, because he's new to the league, he's a bit apprehensive. Sometimes he doesn't, he's not front-footed. He's not proactive. He kind of stands off a little bit. And that could be an issue in the game. That could be another trigger point for Crystal Palace if he's not high up the pitch, if he's late to win the ball back. So we'll see how that plays out as well. Midfield, I can't even talk about it. I'll be honest with you. Conor Gallagher, whoa. Paulinho, on the ball, it's not looking good. And all we can do is possibly look for other players and hope that they come alive.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing. Is the best choice probably is at the moment, I don't know, Paulinho and Gallagher, or maybe Gallagher and Biss, but it's still a tricky one, man. Like it's still, I don't know, like between the three of them, there isn't really anyone, like you say, who's very good on the ball, because I'll tell you what, right? A lot of people would slag off Bentancur, but that's the one thing. He was actually very good on the ball.
I just think it's confidence. I don't even think it's even an ability thing for a Basuma. Because I just think with him, he's really like a vibes man. He really is.
Yeah, he is.
And, when it's not going right, he can kind of go into his shell at times. And then on top of it, his concentration levels aren't always there, and so
they're probably up in the air with the balloons, right?
This is it, man. So when you combine them together, you put balloons, you put like drum kit together. You know what I'm saying? You probably want to go to the studio afterwards and start making some hit records.
Or start going carnival, innit? He wants to be at carnival.
Yeah, man. He wants to get his bodyguards, his French rappers all together in the studio and say, look, bro, look, check this beat out. You know what I'm saying? And go tape afterwards and pop a couple of bottles, you know. But yeah, that's why I maybe look at Saar. Saar might be a better move. He's got a lot of energy and
Yeah, he has.
not to say that like because a lot of these players now I'm looking at them differently. I don't hate Saar, but then there's no player I have allegiance to. Does that make sense? You know, like before, you'd be like, oh, you get offended if someone would speak wicked about one of your players. You're like, how
Yeah,
dare
man.
you?
Yeah,
But right
of course.
now, there's no one I can say, yeah, this is my guy, this is my player I vouch for.
Yeah.
There's none of them. All of them all either hide or they're too egotistic in some way and it's detrimental to the actual team itself. And I don't feel like they're playing as a team.
No,
that's why I find it hard. That's why I find it hard to see sometimes where the goals come from. But in football, and I think this is why TUDOR doesn't want to play through the midfield. He wants to just get onto the right-hand side, let Porro just spam it down the wing or put a ball into the box. Richarlison does his thing where he fights for it, and then hopefully it lands to one of our players and we put it in the back of the net.
Yeah, I think that, do you know what though, when Tel did come on and Richie, they did make a difference. And I do think, like you say, it's a cohesion because these players don't seem to have that with each other. And we haven't been able to really play players consistently because of so many injuries. And I feel like that's a real problem. And I think because of the things going on behind the scenes, there's some tension as well between players. I think that maybe there's like that bit of tension between them with, I think, and that's obviously going to cause a problem. They're not really like united, man. And we need to play players that are going to play together, man. We can't afford for our players to be like this.
Yeah, it's whether or not Tel can start like that off the bench comes on.
No, I agree.
Energy. Well, whether he can start, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see in it what happens, but it's difficult to choose. People obviously saying put on the youngsters. I just don't think this is a situation to chuck youngsters in. That's my personal preference. Like, I feel like people always say this thinking that they're better than they are because they've seen them playing against boys of their own age. When you play them in a full game, a man's game, it's a lot different, a lot more rougher, tougher. You know, we all know that it is a lot different to when they play kids of their own age, you know. So I think that putting on youngsters in this tense situation as well, where, you know, we have to get the points, although they've got the drive, if they make a mistake, people are going to get, like, you can hear it in the crowd, you know, and that ain't good for them as well. So
development-wise, yeah. I agree because, like, you know what it is? I think a lot of fans, they look at the players and, like you said, they'll run through brick walls for the club. They play for the badge. They've been there from like 6 years old. They're Tottenham through and through. And some of these players at the moment aren't doing that. They're not here for us. They feel like they're not giving 100%, or they think the youngsters will. And then on top of it, when they're watching them against other youngsters, as you say, the technical level is high. So they look at the players and they're like, oh, look what he can do on the ball compared to like what he can do in the play like ball. Like, for example, Jagushin on the ball, he's not really tidy. Neither is Danso, innit? Then you look at Byfield, who's very technically good. But then the intensity and the physicality that comes into play when you're playing in at this level. And we're not sure if those players can, you know, swim at that level. And then what would it do to their confidence if you put them in this type of environment, which is hella toxic? Let's be real.
Yeah, that's right.
I agree.
I think a lot of people just jump on board on that because they think it's the answer, and I really don't think it is the answer at all, man. I really don't.
We're desperate. That's why. We're looking for any answer.
I understand why people are doing it, but I think that they forget about what these kids, like, they're kids, they're still young, and that I think it's just not good for them. So I'm thinking of more of like maybe a bigger picture than to be a bit selfish and say, I'll just chuck the kids on because it suits like what I want from our team, because I want players that are going to fight for us, but that's obviously at the detriment to them possibly. So yeah, I wouldn't personally want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk. Will the board sort this mess out.
No, no, they will not. No, they've already shown their competence. And at the end of the day, look, they employed Vinay to do a job, and then they took that power away from him when they said the second Frank, tell Frank to go at Newcastle. They took that power away from him. So the incompetence started there, and the fact that they hired Vinay and they kept on Paratici whilst having Langer there shows like it's just a whole mix mash of people, different board members having different ideas. They couldn't agree on anything, and that's why it's probably taking so long. Because before, back in the day, you just have a manager. You'd have a manager.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have a sporting director or a technical director. You just have a manager, and you'd have a scout. The manager would make the executive decisions on who he wants in the club. He would make basically all the footballing decisions, where he sees the club in 3 to 4 years' time, etc. You would never hear about boards. You wouldn't hear about boards. Boards were like, apart from Tottenham, you hear about what Alan Sugar, obviously, we had Scholar before that, but like that's when you're really invested into your club. But generally, like across the board,
Yeah.
you wouldn't hear about Glazers and stuff like that. It just never happened. It was all about the manager. Like when I was growing up, it was just about Alex Ferguson, Arsene Wenger.
Yeah, of course.
Everyone talk about Kroenkes and all. Like we shouldn't, as fans, we shouldn't know anything about these owners. They should just be injecting money for these people, and then they just get on with the footballing decisions. Unfortunately, like I said before, you've got a bunch of suits running around like headless chickens, wanting change, but then you've got someone else that's going against it. It's like me and you doing a panel show with like 5 other people or 6 other people, and we all have different opinions on the youngsters. We can't agree on the youngsters. Should they start? Should they not? Should they be given a chance? Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
none of us have footballing expertise. None of us have run the game for 2 to 3 years or 4 years. Do you understand?
Yeah,
And
of course.
you got to remember, a lot of these footballing experts, how many years have they had in the game? That's what you have to ask yourself.
Yeah.
And that's who the board are employing. They're kind of at the beginning of their tenure, in my opinion. So I think that's where there's a lot of issues that we're seeing now. And as I said, because the power's been taken out of their hands as well, I don't know if the board are making it an easy path for the people below them to make executive decisions quickly. Because that guy, what's his name? Buchan? Is it Dan Buchan?
Yeah. I can't have to say surname.
Canadian guy.
Yeah.
He's a He's Travistock owner, or he's one of the top guys at Travistock.
Yeah.
He's obviously come in, and like people are like, who's this guy now? Where's he come from? And he's like he's outside of the Lewis family, but he's a part of our structure, the Enoch structure, whatever. And he's making the decision to tell Vinay, like, listen, tell Frank he ain't got a job no more. Do you know what I mean? So that tells you, if he's coming out and overriding, let's say, Vivian, if he's overriding Vivian, now what? Do you understand? Then you've got
that's true.
finances like Charrington. Like, why am I knowing about Charrington? Why am I knowing about these names? Like, I'm not meant to know all of these guys' names. So I think because it's like, they call it in business lazier or lazier affair, when you've got layers of structure on top of, and that makes things slow and hard to get done. And I think that's a part of the problem at the moment. Too many jobs being given out. And they thought maybe if they give out a job for recruitment, a job for finance, a job for football, they thought things would run a lot smoother. But yeah, by the looks of things, I just feel like there's so much conversations and they just don't know what direction they want to go in.
Yeah, my opinion is that we had Daniel Levy, who was like mega mind at the top, was number 1 in power, and then you have now a load of number 2s who don't really know what they're doing and can't make any decisions and have the decisions taken out of their hands. So It's just like they're all looking at each other saying, do you know what we're doing? They're like, no. Do you know what we're doing? Not really. Do you know what I mean? That's what it feels like. It feels like, and that mess is then reflected on what's going on with the manager and with the players, because it feels like it's just such a mess in the boardroom, you know, like they haven't got a clue. Like you said, we've got all these extra people coming in for these jobs. Is it necessary? Like we need to, like they need to think about that. But I feel like the kids, the Lewis kids, have come in and thought that it's going to be easy to just employ people. Oh, we employ that person, that'll be all right, you know? And they didn't actually think about what will happen if you've got too many cooks that spoil the broth, right? That's what they say.
Yeah,
And I think
I think,
that's what's
yeah, go on.
happened.
I think
Yeah,
also, just to add to that, they were so fixated in getting Levy out that
yeah,
they didn't have a succession plan where it was a smooth takeover. If they told him and did it like, I felt like an emotional sacking
yeah,
instead of like a smooth takeover where you're meant to do the handover. Maybe Levy was being stubborn, digging his heels in, and this was the only way to get him out. But ideally, what you'd want is Levy would know maybe 6 months to a year, and he would slowly release the power. Do you know what I mean? Handing
yeah,
over responsibilities, saying like, "This is what I used to do with this. This is what I used to do with that."
yeah.
Da, 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 da,
Explain it, think
and
to them.
explaining things over. But because, by the sounds of it, it was a bit toxic, and he didn't want to. He said, "I think it was the takeover. Whoever was in the next takeover, because he had like 30% in shares, he wanted to be involved in the next takeover in terms of he still wanted to run the club, but there's a new ownership." And then the owners were like, "Oh, so you want to cut us out, but you still run things? No, 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 no. That can't run under our watch." So it looked like a messy battle, you know, and or a messy divorce, and we're the children and we're getting the brunt of it. And you know, like the kids, when you're like 10 years old or 11 years old and your mom and dad split up, you don't understand why. You become maybe a delinquent. You never know. You might just, you know, grow up angry, like angry at the world. So I've that's what I feel like. That smooth handover never happened. It missed out, and as a result, it's affected us fans. We're of the brunt. We're at the brunt of it. All of these type of things, man.
Yeah, we'll touch on something that I think a lot of people obviously speak about, which is the protests that go on. Of course, there's been protests, Ash, that have been more successful. Some of them have not been as successful. Now, from an outsider's point of view, as somebody who's always said to everybody they should definitely go and protest if that's how they feel about the club. I personally don't think that doing it that way is the way to do it. I think that money talks, and I think that people, if you say instead of doing a protest collectively, said on this day we're all going to not turn up, like, and that way seats are empty because you're allowed to not go a certain amount of games. So if you say on this day everybody not turn up and there's lots of empty seats and you don't put them up for sale or nothing, that's obviously to me a way of protesting, but in maybe a different style of way that could possibly affect them more, because there's no people buying drinks, food. I know there are going to be people there, but you get what I'm trying to say. Like, there is other ways. And I don't think that just walking out on the streets and saying Levy and Enoch out, or now Enoch out, is the, I don't think it works personally. I don't think in any history that it's actually worked with owners. Like, it didn't work for Newcastle. He got out when he wanted, Ashley. He chose to go out when he wanted. But anyway, that's just my personal opinion. But if you want to do it, I think that the messaging for these protests have been a bit mishy-mashy, wishy-washy, because they're not clear. They said they wanted change. What does that change mean to anybody? It's okay, whoever you are, come on board. And I think that the way maybe the protests have gone have then made people have less faith in those protests, because of the way maybe things have gone, and people are more maybe reluctant to protest. And my other view is that the assumption is that everybody's online and therefore you're getting the maximum amount of people by going online. Well, it's more likely those people online, or a lot of people abroad that can't come to protests, or, you know, they can't afford to come to protests, which is fair. And also they're going to be more likely people who already do protest. You've got to appeal to those who aren't protesting. They're the ones that you need to capture. And there are other ways of trying to do this. And online, I don't think is the full way. I think there is other ways to do it. That's my personal belief, but I don't know what you think.
I think that it's a conversation that needs to be had. First of all, it's not easy to organize.
No, it's not. I'm not trying to say that it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah. No, this is just my view, basically. This is
Yeah,
my view. And so respect to anyone that tries
of
to
course.
galvanize a whole fan base, and a fan base that we've got well over 5 million of. You know, how much in the UK, I'm not too sure, but there's lots of Spurs fans. And so match going fans, we know there's like between 50 to 55,000. I know the stadium can hold 60,000. So that's quite a lot of people. And the last protest, they decided that something had to be done. The actual brand of the protesting is called Change for Spurs, but the messaging was they had enough of ENIC. I think they wanted to give ENIC a chance, let them do their thing, but they could see quickly that it was going down the same road. So they thought this is the best time to get together, whilst this is a televised event, because we were playing West Ham at the time. If we want that conversation to be started, now will be the time where we protest. So when you form a protest, I think the idea is that you get the media talking about it. And once you get the media talking about it, that will create conversation and that will create pressure within the club, because then you've got the pundits, for example, you've got people on the BBC, you've got journalists, you've got Sky Sports. They're the ones that are going to be asking the questions, especially if the results are bad. And it happens. So it just so happened that we lost that game. And so that was, for me, I would have thought that was a positive, because then people are now asking those questions. Because shortly after that, you've seen the overlap happen with Ange Postecoglou. He's come out, he's criticized the board openly. Then you've got Scott Mann. He's come out and criticized the board as well, spoken about the ambition of the club. And so you've got other professionals. Gareth Bale just done an overlap yesterday. That's out now for people to watch. He's also spoken about the ambitions of the board and how the club operate as a big club. And so I think having a protest, whether the messages change or the messages to get ENIC out, that essentially is creating a conversation. So for me, even though people think, oh, what's the point of protesting? Like, that's not going to do anything. This conversation has sparked that debate. And that's the debate that needed to happen, in my opinion. So there is different ways of doing it, but essentially, like, if people aren't happy with the messaging, because the message before was Levy out, and then the protest before that was Levick and ENIC out. I remember Bagel was really big on that, Levick and ENIC out, and a lot of fans disagreed with that. A lot of fans disagreed with fans calling out Daniel Levy and ENIC out, and therefore this other protest had to come and take a softer approach to get more fans on board, because Tottenham fans are almost like the British public, where you can't be too offensive, you can't be too abrasive. We're in a culture where we don't celebrate wins, because you could become a bit too arrogant. We don't like arrogance, or you're too cocky, you're too full of yourself. That's un-British like, or un-English like. People like to be conservative, humbleness, speak when you're spoken to. It's that type of approach. And I feel like as a fan base, that's how we, like, even when I went to the Fulham game, as I said, people didn't like other fans calling out ENIC out. No, get behind the club. They think you're against the club by calling ENIC out, when really you're looking at the macro. You're like, we've had this appointment or this regime for 25 years. I think it's time for a change. And that's essentially what change for Spurs is. And so maybe people didn't like the messaging because it sounded too vague or too wishy-washy, but the other movement was clearly too hard and too hardcore.
It's really difficult, isn't it, Ash? Like, it is difficult, like,
this is
to
why
balance.
I
respect them,
because you're fighting on so many fronts. You're fighting almost like a civil war. And it's not like you're fighting against other fans like Manchester's taking the piss out of you, Arsenal taking the piss out of you. It's different because you'll be united because we're all Tottenham. But when it's civil war, it's even worse. I find like when we're against each
Yeah, of
other,
course.
it's a lot more harder to convince match-going fans that, you know, we should all be against the ball, because we've had how many managers under this ownership? Do you know what I mean? People are now moving the conversation saying, oh, maybe it wasn't Levy's fault, it was Enoch's fault. And now there's a sub-divide now within the actual protest, because some people are saying, oh, you know, careful what you wish for, bet the devil you know. Maybe Levy wouldn't have had us up, he wouldn't have had us in this relegation battle. So now we're undoing the whole point of the actual conversation. The whole conversation, for me, it was like Levy and Enoch are the beast of the same, the two-headed beast. Do you know what I mean? It's the same person. It's almost like a trying, like all seeing.
I don't agree in a way. I get what you're saying, but I don't quite agree, because I felt like that Levy had a remit, and they were the ones above him were the Lewises, telling him what his restrictions were and weren't, because he was the one, obviously. Well, we don't know that, but I mean, it's the thing is, we're speculating, but the fact in business, when you've got somebody who holds the purse strings, you're not going to go above them, because you can't, because they're the ones who hold the purse strings, right? So he would somewhat have to answer to them. And the way that the board without Levy have acted has shown the way that they behave. So they have not changed anything because Levy isn't there. So my point would be, with Levy, it was the same. Without Levy, they've been acting the same. So nothing's changed. So the only thing that's changed is Levy's not there. So
you could argue then you can't really be angry at Langdon, because Lang could be having his purse strings held back as well. Vinay might be restricted in the job he's trying to do. So then you could redundant the whole conversation. If you're going to apply that to Levy, that's Levynomics, no? That is what you're basically saying. I would say that Levy was in charge of a lot of the transfers because he actually actively went in and got Jed Spence done. He actually got his hands dirty. And he got, when it comes to Pedro Porro, he actively got that. He actually got it done. So that's the reason why I would put some of the blame on Levy.
I get that.
Actively in the deals, and he actually delayed deals, slowed deals down. We know that even the Eze deal, we know from Simon Jordan that he was a big part of that deal, and he did stall that deal for 2 to 3 weeks, which then allowed Arsenal to have that injury for Havertz, and then they were able to then take Eze off that.
My opinion on that is different. I think that they always had Eze in mind, and I think Eze always wanted to go to Arsenal, because when he got a phone call from Arteta, he actually said that he got the phone call from Arteta saying it's okay, you're going to come to us, basically, because he wanted to go to them.
Yeah, of course he was.
Like, so I mean, so that I think even if we didn't delay it, if that was the case, but when it was reported that Crystal Palace were delaying some of the small details for it, but that's obviously by the by. But the fact is that I think that would have happened regardless. But I'm just saying, like, I do get what you're saying, and I do agree with you that he did have a hand in and he did things wrong when it came to negotiations with deals. And I'm not trying to say that some of that was not down to him, but he also did get us deals when people were saying, oh, Spence was a deal that was done by the club, Levy got involved. But then when people were saying how good he's been, then they forget that conveniently and say that, you know, oh, well, Levy did like lots of bad things, but it's convenient to be blaming him for stuff and then convenient to forget what he did.
Well, you got to look at it like this then. Forget the Eze deal, forget like he did something. Let's give him some credit. He did some deals that worked out and were beneficial.
Of course, but sometimes they don't.
And sometimes they don't, which is fair.
That's right.
But then if you equate the time that Levy had been in charge, which was 25 or 24 years, and then you equate the time that the Lewis family have been in charge with Levy out of the picture, then you've only got 5 to 6 months to judge it on, if that makes sense.
Fair. Yeah, no, that's fair.
Do you see what I'm trying to say? So you could look at it both ways.
No,
if Enoch had a whole year or 2 years or 3 years and it continued on, then you could say, wow, maybe Levy wasn't the problem. Do you understand? So I'm just saying, I'm just flipping.
Yeah, no, I get that. I understand.
like you can literally look at it both ways. But I
Yeah,
essentially would say that they both have hands in it. Do you know what I mean? Equally.
I get that, and
That's where I'm at the moment.
I
And
get
so go on, sorry, go on.
You know, I
Cut you
get
off.
that, but I wouldn't, like I say, I would say that it wouldn't, I don't think it's equal because, like I said, for my reasoning, that's my reasoning. But I do get why people say about Daniel Levy, and I'm not trying to make out he was perfect in any which way. He made big
No, of course
mistakes.
not.
There's
Of course
plenty of big mistakes that he made, but I just think that the hate towards Levy, once he was gone, a lot of people made assumptions about Levy going that everything will be so much different now. Everything's going to change because Levy was one of the biggest problems, and everyone
that's
forgot
naive
that
of them, wasn't
actually,
it? That was
yeah, and
naive of them.
people forget that it was actually Enoch as well, and like there was people that also were
Right.
the problem, and I think that
I
that was
was there.
my issue with it because I just felt like, hold on a second, you put so much onto Levy. They all pointed the finger at Levy, and even the Lewises tried to sort of point the finger at Levy a little bit, and now they're trying to deflect it and say it wasn't us, it was him, it wasn't us, it was him. Now let's see if stuff changes. Like you say, I guess what you're saying is that reasonably the time period, but they've had a chance to get us players and they hadn't. Let's see in summer if they do change anything, to see if they do anything different. I've got a feeling that that's not going to be the case, but that's
Yeah,
just
I
what
agree.
you know.
I agree, and I'm no different to you. I would say with Levy for me, like the hiring and firing, because I feel like he was in charge of the managers, and I think that was a big reason why we've gone from left to right to up to down because we haven't followed a consistent philosophy from not Postecoglou, from even Pochettino. From Pochettino, we should have had a succession plan where, okay, Poch isn't quite right, he's failing. Maybe we continue that attacking style of football and we bring in another attacking manager. Instead, he's fired him and he's gone for Mourinho, the complete opposite of Pochettino.
Yeah,
Then he's done the whole Nuno thing as well. Again, completely different. So it's another style. And then on top of it, you're buying players for that style of manager. And then on top of that, you've gone to Conte, again, hiring, firing, and he's employed Paratici, who's also a part of that situation. So that's a part of the problem that he's also hired. And then you've inherited now, the next few managers have inherited a lot of these different managers' styles and philosophies. So when it came to Postecoglou, he had to gut out about 8 players that weren't suiting his philosophy. He weren't a part of what he was trying to create in terms of attacking football. Then you've gone from Postecoglou to Thomas Frank again, and Levy was a part of that whole situation from Pochettino. And remember, Pochettino didn't originally want Levy didn't originally want Pochettino. He wanted Frank de Boer and was rejected and landed on Pochettino. So there was a few things I expect that we can give him credit for Pochettino, but then at the same time, can we?
no, I
And
get.
then also, sorry, go on.
You know, I understand. I get exactly what you're trying to say. Obviously, like he is at fault for like the chopping and changing of types of managers. Like we didn't have like a succession plan, like you said, to keep on trying to play the same style of football throughout. And it's been a massive, massive mess because he wanted Jose because he truly thought that a winning manager could get more out of these players, and that was obviously incorrect. He misjudged that. He obviously was wrong about that. And like I say, there's plenty of things that he's done that have been, you know, absolutely he's part of, and that
Yeah, I
he's
mean,
wrong.
do you know what it is? Like there is like you could argue that the stadium and the training ground was a massive success for him, and that was what his legacy is going to be remembered for. But at the same time, you would have thought that when we had Postecoglou in charge and we got that stadium, which was going to be match changing for revenue and income, that the wages were going to match those type of players that we bought, because we bought Solanke in, who was like 60 to 70 million, but then his wages were like 90k, meaning that the value of the player didn't quite marry up to what the stadium could offer. So we could have bought players that were more established to help us kick on, that were ready now. But instead we went for the youth project in like your Bergvals, your Archie Grays, your Odebers, your Matthias Tells, and they weren't quite ready. And as a result, we kind of plummeted down a league because we didn't have those seniority players that can help us push us up the table. It's all right having young players, but you need to cultivate them with players that have been there and done it now, or that are in the prime of their career. And I say prime, the age between 24 and maybe 28, in between those type of areas. I think they purposely went out, and that was the remit. And I don't think that was from a Paratici. I think that would have come from Daniel Levy, because before we had done it successfully with like your Luka Modric's and your Gareth Bell, which you did well with, you know, when back in the day you could cultivate players, get them young, grow them, be success, then sell them for big money. The game had moved on from that. And I think that was one of the mistakes, that he probably didn't really move with the times and evolve. He tried to pivot back to that time. And ultimately, it's led us to where we are now, because you can't really say 6 months of damage from ENIC is the reason why we were here, because we were here last season and the cup, as you said, papered over the cracks. And that was because of that recruitment, in my opinion, is the reason why we've stopped down so down in the stadium, so far down on the actual league, in my opinion. So my question is, my last thing I'll say is, would you think if Daniel Levy were to go to a different club, let's say he went to Aston Villa, do you think he could get them further up the table, or do you think he would keep them where they are at, or would you think they would go further down if he was at Aston Villa?
Oh, I was trying to think financially, because financially they kind of take a lot more risks than what Levy would with the
right.
So obviously,
so he would probably reduce the wages down.
Yeah, that he wouldn't be
style
happy
of player
with,
and the quality of player
so
would be therefore less, would it not? And so
yeah,
therefore,
I would agree that he'd probably keep them where they're abouts now. I think.
You think you keep them third? You think you would keep them around third, fourth? Well, they're fourth at the moment, aren't they? Or fifth?
I mean, the thing is that they have done well, and I think part of that is
they've gone the
Emery as
opposite
well.
of Levy, by the way. They've gone the other direction. They've taken risks.
Yeah.
Whereas Levy kind of
No, they have taken risks. So maybe we don't know. But my question back at you is, if he had less financial restraints at somewhere like, I don't know, Manchester United, where the financial situation is slightly more, I don't know, they're a bit more like free with it all, if you like. They do like to play their players a higher wage, and his remit was to actually keep wages, maybe not to reduce wages, because there's no issue with their financial situation. That would he do better at a Manchester, somewhere, say a Manchester United, because I
can speak on behalf of Manchester United Football Club, because I know a lot of Man United fans, and I tell you right now, they would not want Daniel Levy at their club.
Fair enough.
I'm telling you, I'll go on any show.
Worse than the Glazers. Worse than the Glazers.
I'll say to Saeed, who's a big Man United fan.
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
I know Saeed. I'll talk to Cass, who's a massive Man United fan. And I've just got a lot of Man U fans in general that I know. And I'm in a lot of WhatsApp groups with them. I'll ask them, would you take Daniel Levy as your chairman? And where do you think he could get you? Knowing that we've had 25 years at Spurs to mould and take Spurs up into a certain level.
But do you not think that maybe that ENIC are part of they gave the much he's allowed to spend? So if he's been told he's allowed to spend more, and that the remit isn't to cut down wages, that would he therefore be?
You do realize that he was arguing about that PSR. That's his baby. You know that.
I know.
So
I know.
That answers your own question.
Fair dues. Like, I'm not gonna listen. People get it twisted in it and say I'm a Levy lover. I'm trying. No, man. I try to be someone who's a bit more fair-minded with stuff, and I try and be.
That's what you know. What Jay rated our Spurs. He says the same thing. Sean says the same thing, and who else that says about Levy? They all say we're not Levy lovers. We're just trying to offer a balanced opinion and different approach on the whole conversation, and that's fair enough. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, no, that's cool. A big up to Sean and to J Rated, man. Like, I know, innit, because I've had conversations with them both in it, so I know where their stance is. It's not dissimilar to mine, innit. So, well, we will leave it at that. And if you'd like to go and see Ash and what he's got to offer over at Spurs Kings TV, you can go. You must go and subscribe to him if you haven't done already. I'm sure that you are, but tell people a bit more about what you do over there, Ash.
Yeah, man. Basically, I've got quite a few contraries on my channel, man. To be fair, Marlon, I think he's a bit of a he thinks outside the box. He thinks a little bit different, and we're forever disagreeing on footballing opinions.
And you also you shit stir a little bit as well with the stirring on those panel shows.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to, man. Otherwise, this is boring. You know, you got to ask these type of questions, get people's minds thinking. This is YouTube, by the way, so we're in the world of entertainment. But yeah, like we like to ask a lot of questions, and I do sometimes ask questions to kind of problem solve myself. I like to find the solution. What can we do different? I know we haven't done a lot of that today, but that's my thinking behind a lot of my shows. Like, is there a way we can get around this? Can we do things different? Can we be better? But yeah, you can find me on Spurs Kings TV. The handle is on X as well, and we do a rival show on a Wednesday generally. Sometimes it's civil, sometimes it's chaotic, but
it's always good fun though, isn't it?
We always talk football though. That's the main thing.
Yeah. No, you do.
You try to stay away from like the politics of football, because there's a lot of politics of football. I feel like we were talking about board level, etc. I kind of talk about the game itself and maybe where it's going as well, set pieces and that. But yeah, that's what we try to dive into, man.
Yeah, no, that's good. Are you trying to say that I didn't challenge you enough today with your thinking in the questions?
I did not say that. No, I'm just.
I thought that was a little dig, you know. I'm not going to lie.
I don't know where. Let me reframe that. Let me rephrase that. I said I tried to get the solutions, not like you gave me a lot of questions there. It was good questions, and as content creators, it's not easy to come up with questions, guys. Know that.
It isn't always easy, because you've got to try and think sometimes outside the box like you do. I try and think of questions that maybe get people thinking a bit more, phrase it a little bit of a different way, perhaps. Do you know what I'm saying?
It could be the same question but phrase it a different way, which allows you to kind of come with different answers.
Yeah, that's it. Well, anyway, if you haven't done so already, please make sure you do go and follow them guys. I've already I will add the link in my description. I'll put it in the actual title as well, so you can just click on it and straight over and subscribe to these guys. I always enjoy watching their content, and I've been over there a few times and been on screen as well with them, so it's always good fun mixing it up with them. I'm the contrarian one, apparently. That's what I've been told. I'm the one that comes over as the contrarian, because I do think a little bit differently to others, and that's cool, man. Everyone's entitled to think how they think in it. I like chats like that. I like chats that are someone a bit different, so who don't always agree, because I think it's important to listen to people that don't agree with you. I think that's actually quite a good thing to do in life. But yeah. Well, thank you again for joining me, Ash. Take very good care of yourselves, and we'll speak again real soon.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs, kind of.